Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. It looks like we've got about 16 attendees. There's myself, Trevor Kessner with Boise Parks and Recreation Department, and an assistant who is not in my office that's helping me kind of control the Zoom meeting tonight. So we're just going to basically have just a real quick kind of status update on where we're at with Spaulding, and I'm going to talk about kind of some of our proposals that we're going to be speaking about tonight. And then after that, we'll just open it up for a really quick Q&A session, and then folks can send questions via chat or in the Q&A button that's at the bottom of your screen there. So as probably all of you know, the city acquired the Spaulding Ranch site in 2016 from a developer that probably didn't understand the great value of the history of the site. So we find it really tremendous that the city was able to obtain that property and keep it in its preserved state as of now. I'm sure you probably all have been aware that we've been wanting to plant orchard trees on the site, and those were actually planted in the first week or two of March of this year. They are from rootstock saplings, and we planted just, I think, 100 trees, and about 60 or 65 of them are apple trees, and the remaining are peach trees. So those small trees will be getting water, and they'll be growing probably for the next 3 or 4 years before they'll actually begin to produce some fruit. So we're really excited that we were able to get the orchard in the ground this year. If y'all live in the valley, you know it's about the time when water starts to come in the ditch. I know that at my house, or behind the ditch behind my house, had water in it this morning when I left. So there is water from the irrigation tuttle lateral that is coming to empty into our irrigation storage pond. And that also makes me want to bring up just one little tidbit of information for folks that live right next to the site. We are doing a controlled spill of the pond into the southwest quadrant where we're doing the rehabilitation for the meadow. That's happening this week. I'm not sure what day it was, but like I said, it's going to be a controlled spill, so we can ensure that if there is a spillover event, that we could build like a check dam that we could release that and make sure that none of our neighbors' yards flood in the event that a spillover event happens, such as that. So we've piped the tuttle lateral, we've got a irrigation storage pond, we've drilled a well, we have a pump house and a fully functional pump for irrigation. We've got drip lines installed for the trees, and the next section slated for work this summer is keeping the weeds down and basically trying to make sure that the irrigation infrastructure that we've planned for and that we've installed is going to be effective in watering all portions of the site, especially when we get to a time when we can have agricultural growing on the site, which hopefully that leads us into the next development on the property, which we're going to talk about tonight. And this is formalizing the access points at the southern entrance, which is on the corner of Glenwood and Long Drive. And I'll just go ahead and share my screen with everybody. And again, if anybody has anything they want to say, there's probably a little, I don't know if anybody's raising their hand or not, but anyways, I'll go ahead and share my screen. And let's see, where's my map here? Screen one. We'll go to this. And we'll share. Oh, what are we looking at here? Can people see my screen? I don't think they can. Let's try again. I can see it, but it's like it. Is it my mapping? Okay, yeah. Well, bear with me, folks. Let me just navigate back to the Spaulding Ranch site. I'm up on Federal Way here, but we'll get back there. And if this makes you dizzy, don't look at the screen. So here we go. So when I'm speaking of the south entrance, I'm speaking of Cole Road, which runs north-south here along the southern portion of the site. You have this funky little corner here we demolished the house and put in a nice grassy turfed area, and that's looking really good. And as you can see, you come into the neighborhood off of North Glenwood Street. And if you're going into the neighborhood, you'd make a left on West Long Drive. As you can see, Glenwood Street basically dead ends at the city property there. And there's a lot of right-of-way or roadway that really doesn't get used for anything other than collecting a lot of storm water and mud. And essentially, we are going to ask Ada County Highway District if we can build a cul-de-sac in their existing right-of-way. ACHD would typically require us to build a cul-de-sac on our property at the dead end, but as you know, the orchard trees were planted in this area, and we'd like to build a cul-de-sac with an entrance here that minimally impacts the orchard and our property. So I'm going to move to this exhibit, and then we'll pull that over here and see if we can get it pulled over there. Okay, so this is essentially an exhibit of that very same intersection I was just showing on my map, and I'd like to zoom in here if we can get closer. I'll move this around here. Ooh, goodness, that was what's happened there. There we go. Okay, so if everybody can see this, what we're going to propose, and we haven't proposed this yet, we're going to ask ACHD in the future, as long as we get everybody, our neighbors' input to see, make sure that everyone's okay with this. But you can see that we propose to build a cul-de-sac and the curb and gutter and sidewalk just right there at the corner. And then we will have a 22-foot access road, 26-foot access road with a 22-foot curb cut at the entrance that will formalize the entrance on the south portion of the site. In order for us to do that, Ada County Highway District will need to vacate the portion of the right-of-way here that they currently own, but we will dedicate a portion of our property to accommodate that cul-de-sac right there on the corner. So that's what we're going to propose for the south entrance, and I will go ahead and move on to our north entrance here. And again, if this makes you dizzy, don't look, but I'm just kind of flying with my map. And when we get up here, we've got our North Glenwood entrance, which is currently kind of a dead end, basically. You can't see it from this old map, but our irrigation storage pond is basically located right here. And the Tuttle lateral that was just piped, the piped portion runs a little bit northerly of where that current ditch, where the ditch is still existing. So the piped portion runs very, very close to this dead end. And again, Ada County Highway District would prefer us to build a full cul-de-sac, just much like the one I just showed you, right on our property. And because that lateral has been piped, it does not allow for us to build a full cul-de-sac right there. So what I've done is I'm just kind of thrown up a display here of what we propose to do. And this, where's my thingy here? Can we see it? We can't see it. I just can't really zoom in though.
It's okay.
Let's see if we can do this. Is that helpful? There we go. Okay, so what we have is an exhibit like I just showed you for the north portion. What we're proposing to do on this one, so we have emergency services like a fire truck can come in here, be able to turn around and get back out. Or anybody that doesn't really want to visit the park, finds themselves at a dead end, but they don't want to go through the park, they can pull in here, back up, and then leave the neighborhood. It's fire compliant. It's also called a Hammerhead Turnaround. And because Ada County Highway District wants us to build a full cul-de-sac, we'll be asking them to modify their policy to allow us to build this hammerhead entrance. What we will also propose to do is connect this hammerhead entrance with a private access road that runs from the western entrance there over to Cole Road, and we would propose a right turn out onto Cole Road going south, but you could not make a left turn to go north. But if you were traveling south on Cole Road and you wanted to turn into the park, you could make a right turn off of Cole Road. So that's what we call a right in, right out entrance. And we have tried to line up this entrance here with the existing driveway that exists across the street. That's, again, because this entrance does not meet ACHD's standard distancing on a road like Cole, because it's, I believe they call that an arterial. So we're asking ACHD to, again, modify their policy to allow us to build this. And that's really the general gist of our meeting here tonight, is to let our neighbors know this is what we intend to do, this is what we'd like to do. This is the proposal that we're going to take to Ada County Highway District to ask them to modify their policy so we can finally formalize some access to this site and be able to provide folks with some opportunities to basically park and allow for some future growers to kind of get a feel for it. And then once we have formalized access and parking, we'd be able to place potentially some temporary bathrooms, like some porta potties there, and really work on some neighborhood amenities. And the first thing that we know that the neighborhood wants is they just want to get access to the site. They want to see what we're doing there. They'd like maybe a pathway to walk on and just to be able to get up close and see what's going on at Spaulding Ranch. So that's really our first goal with these proposals, is just to make the site accessible, because really it's just been dead ends at the north and south, and with gates. So that's what we intend to do tonight, or not. Well, that's what I intend to do tonight, is just let everybody know, let the neighborhood know what we're proposing to do. I know that a lot of folks here probably have several questions that involved, what are you doing with the existing buildings, and what is the timeline for rehabbing those structures, and who will be growing what and in what areas, and what is the timeline for certain groups to be on site. A lot of those questions, while we will absolutely entertain them, it's really just not the focus for our meeting here tonight. And we definitely want to keep all of those questions entertained. Keep your questions coming to us. But the purpose of this meeting tonight is to focus on our formalized access proposals, which you can see here. Again, the north entrance, the private access road, which I will add for those that are on the call that, have had, some brought it to our attention in the past that they have concerns about cut through traffic, especially with the high school being so close and having accessibility from the North Glenwood neighborhood, because we don't want that. We do not want to encourage it. And in order to discourage that kind of cut through traffic, we're going to design the private access road, to be very thin. It's not going to be a standard roadway. It's going to be private. It's going to be very small, which discourages speeding. If you've ever been driving through Ann Morrison Park or Esther Simplot Park off of Whitewater Park Boulevard, you know that a park road is very, very skinny, and we will want people to typically keep their speeds between 5, 10, and no higher than 15 miles an hour. So we will put speed limit signs. We will also use speed bumps or speed humps, pending Boise Fire Department approval, because we know that fire trucks going over speed bumps is never a good thing. So we might use maybe dips, which we kind of slow folks down. Also, I think we're probably going to show maybe like approximately 30 to 35 parking spaces on this initial private road development. We will also control access, because it will be proposed to be two-way. It will go east-west and west to east, but we can control the access, the circulation through there through the use of gates or bollards or temporary signage, especially for future events, if we need to kind of direct traffic to flow in certain ways. So I just want folks that live, right next door, especially in these neighborhoods that are very close to these formalized entrances, that our primary concern was to design it so it is an absolutely minimal attraction for somebody that just doesn't want to visit the park and they just want to get through the neighborhood. So this park and the access will be designed for destination that it is. So I believe that's the bulk of what I wanted to cover this evening. I've rambled on for about 15 minutes. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. We'll go back to me, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and look in the chat, and it says, let's see, if you have any general questions. Yep, that was from my assistant that wrote that. So I will go ahead and just be quiet and open up the question and answer window. I don't see any in there at the moment. So if I've missed anything or anybody else has a question that I didn't cover, I'd be happy to answer those now. And again, I'm looking in the chat feature. Oh, I see. Hey, Ronnie, I got a question from Ronnie. Any opportunities for volunteer events? We're looking for volunteer events, and those probably going to be associated with the rehab of the soils and the planting of the kind of non-invasive or native species to kind of turn that area into kind of a standard sage steppe or natural grass area. So I think pending, COVID restrictions and where we get, kind of further into the summer season, we are definitely going to look for volunteer opportunities to help us, do some plantings and maybe do some cleanup and maybe, some digging or, light grading of certain areas to make sure that, the site looks nice and we don't have weeds. We could use opportunities for volunteers to keep the weeds down for sure. So appreciate that question, Ronnie. Go ahead and let's see what's in the chat. We've got Diane Wilmot asks, her biggest concern is traffic getting out onto Cole because she watches for long periods of she can sit there for long periods trying to get out because people are turning on red. Concern getting out onto Cole. Okay. Oh, I'm wondering if you're talking like from the park site?
Yeah, the new access point. I think that's what she's asking.
So what we call traffic queuing would occur on park property. And I know that the amount of traffic that comes north to south on Cole Road, you can get a pretty steady line of traffic if you have a green light there on Mountain View and Cole. If people are constantly turning, and you never know when you're going to get a break to turn out onto Cole. But all the traffic that's on Cole was a concern for us, which is one of the reasons why we proposed the right in and right out only, because there would just be no left-hand turning movements allowed. It would be far too dangerous. And Diane, I hope I answered your question. If I didn't, go ahead and ask it again in the chat in another way. I'd be happy to try and address it properly. Next question from Sandy Rumpel. Yeah. Where will the 30 to 35 parking spaces be located in the park? So I'll go ahead and bring back up, share my screen here. Let's see, where do we go? I'll share this. Not that one. Not that one. Bear with me. I'm going to get this exhibit back up, y'all. North access. Here we go. Bring this in here.
Still showing the old one.
Okay. Well, let's get rid of the old one. No.
Okay, share your screen again.
Share screen. Bear with me.
And hit done.
Share. Perfect. There we go. Okay, so let me get my question answer screen out of here. So go back to this. I am so sorry. I've lost my meeting here.
Oh, the question is,
yes,
where
the question
will
answer.
The 30 to 35 parking spaces be located?
So if we can see that. Okay, so if you will look closely at these little like hatch, well, they're not hatched off, but these little kind of squares off the turning movements on the access road, those will be where the parking spots will be located. And so let me go back to my,
Do you want to stick with chat? Finish those two up or?
well, if I could find the chat now. Don't know where it went.
Close all that. Stop sharing your screen.
Let me stop sharing my screen
It'll
here.
be easier to find it. Yep.
There
and
we
then
go.
right side, yeah.
Okay.
There's just something about.
So that's
Need
where
to
the
park.
parking will be located. From Lindsay,
Overflow parking.
how will overflow parking in the neighborhood be discouraged? We are looking at, there's no way for us to control the overflow parking unless we provide adequate parking on the site. And in order to do that, we have to gauge the kind of events and the kinds of growing activities and the uses that will be forthcoming. So the 35 parking space is really just the beginning of the ability for the site to accommodate parking. There is also proposed maybe some potential overflow parking once we develop the southern access point to put in a small access road kind of alongside or but south of the orchard, kind of southwest of the orchard, and have some additional overflow parking for large events or areas that, you know, where we would need to kind of overpark people when certain things are going on. But for a standard agricultural park with, I would say just kind of the growers' access being the kind of most important or the beginning point to provide, we could only gauge the amount of parking, the additional overflow parking that might be needed in a future event. So we can certainly work with ACHD, and the city definitely does have some authority when it comes to managing parking on the street, and, you know, no parking signs or, you know, temporary signs that would discourage folks from parking in the neighborhood or in front of houses and being an inconvenience. I see maybe Diane was trying to clarify as far as cars coming from Mountain View. So they'd be coming up from the Glenwood light. I'm assuming they're turning left and making an immediate right. Again, they're traveling southbound on Cole Road, but maybe Diane is talking about folks that are coming up off of Glenwood and they cross Mountain View and stay on Glenwood and they end up hitting the dead end or the Hammerhead and they don't know where to go and they're just going to cut through the park. Again, we will design this private road for people that end up there. They don't want to be at the park and they just want to get back out onto the road. So they should be able to turn around at the Hammerhead, or goodness forbid, they, you know, use the private road, but it's going to be a massive inconvenience and take a lot of time to get back out onto Cole Road and get to the destination. So all of that comes with a design that kind of discourages cut through. Don't see any more. Oh, Annie, yes, Annie Fuller. Hello, is the plan that there will be someone living on the site full-time once it is completed? It was certainly considered in the plan to have maybe an idea for a farmer in residence once the site is fully developed, but we wouldn't be able to consider anyone actually living full-time there or doing like a residency per se, or artist in residence type situation until there's adequate living quarters. And at this point, we're not touching any of the historic buildings, the barn, the house, or any of the outbuildings, because we have to proceed very, very cautiously with any kind of rebuilding, remodeling, or rehabbing of those structures, because every single detail of those buildings has got to be preserved in the state that they're in. And you got to have a lot of funding and a really good plan to get going with that. So at this point, we're just about access, creating infrastructure so we can grow and for future growers, and then to be able to provide some form of an amenity for the neighborhood so they also can enjoy the site. And excuse me, I'm going to move over to the question and answer from the chat here, and I've got Ronnie asks again, what happened with the planting last year? Ronnie, COVID spoiled everything. So I apologize that we weren't able to get the event with the folks that wanted to help plant the trees. I know that's been a big bummer for a lot of folks, but you know, we just couldn't take any chances on public events on that. So you know, again, the COVID thing. So Next question is from Siebel. How many total projected parking spots? 30 to 35. He says we live near the beginning of Long Drive and have concerns about folks parking along our street. Absolutely. Again, the parking overflow issue is going to be addressed in a way that the northern portion would be the primary parking area, but also there is an existing curb cut where the home that was on the corner was demolished, and there is kind of we'll call it a curb cut, but it's access point. There will be a future parking lot that will be constructed in that very area. So the parking lot we provided to kind of keep folks from parking along the street and within that cul-de-sac, because remember, the cul-de-sac will need to be free of folks parking there, because if a fire engine were needed to turn around in the cul-de-sac, they wouldn't be impeded by folks that were parking there. So next question is from Mary Morris. Will there be signage informing people that the entrance into the housing area is a dead end? Currently, people act as if the dead end signs aren't true. Yes, in fact, that's something that ACHD will instruct us as to how they want us to sign that, so folks are not confused about where they're going. And again, I want to remind folks that we're going out to our neighbors and we're asking the folks in the public what they think of the design and what we propose to do to formalize this access. So I want everybody to be aware, this is really what we intend to do, but we have to ask ACHD if that's okay. And ACHD will certainly let us know if things need to be designed differently, or if we are not allowed to do it, or if there's specific parking restrictions or accommodations that need to be provided in order to prevent any kind of nuisance or issues creating problems for our neighbors. Next is Annie Fuller that says bike lanes ? Anything that we build on parks property is going to accommodate bikes. Further down into the planning phase, when we begin talking about, internal pathways for the site, we're going to take a closer look on, how bikes will be moving through the site. We assume that folks on bikes probably are just, using their bikes, if not for an enjoyable ride, but they're going to use their bikes to kind of quickly get through the neighborhood. So we want to take a look at circulation internally as far as like bikes and pedestrians, how they want to get through the site if they don't want to stop and enjoy any of the park amenities. So a future bike pathway, not saying it's a green belt, but it would be kind of a multi-use pathway through the site, is going to be considered in the future. Not designed yet. We make no hard plans for where that's going to be located, but yes, bike lanes all the way. Next is from Bob Rue. Do we anticipate any difficult traffic on the Cole and Glenwood entrance? Is it already hard? It is already hard to get out of either turning right or left. Future possible light. Again, that's going to be something that Ada County Highway District would dictate. We certainly didn't budget to put in an additional stoplight, and it's probably too close to the Mountain View Cole intersection that ACHD would allow or direct us to put in a stoplight or a light controlled intersection. But again, this is just our proposal at this point. We have to take it to ACHD and see what their commission recommends as far as their standard specifications. Annie Fuller says, tight spot there. Many will make the right turn, and then the next right turn is into the park, and it could cause a challenge. It could. That's something that we tried to think of and tried to design for it. And again, we take it to ACHD. They have the traffic engineers that will tell us whether the potential movements in and out of Cole Road are going to be allowable per their policy. So Diane Wilmot, originally we discussed school buses being able to bring school children. We were talking about parking on the south. I thought where that house was removed was going to be, yes, it is just grass, because we didn't want to leave it to be dirt and weeds until the parking lot is developed. So Good question, Diane. There is going to be a parking lot there. But at this time, we just didn't want our immediate neighbors to have to look at a dirt or weed patch until that parking lot gets developed. So hopefully everybody enjoys how nice that corner looks now. I think it looks really nice. And yeah, so again, we'll use that existing curb cut from the driveway where the house that was demolished would be the access point to a parking lot that will be constructed in the future on that corner. Next question is Ronnie, what is the plan for access from Capitol in the northwest corner of the property? Good question. It's a question we've received a lot of inquiries about. We're not exactly sure yet how we're going to secure that access, because what may not be known by a lot of folks is there is a parcel that separates city property from school property, and then there's a neighbor in that, I want to say the most northwestern corner, where we built the access road for the irrigation. The Nampa Meridian Irrigation District has an easement there. So really, there's private property that separates park property, and there's also a Nampa Meridian Irrigation District that they don't want anybody to access. So while it might be kind of natural for the Capitol High School kids to kind of just wander through those gates back there, we're going to have to think of a permanent solution to deter any high school kids, not any, but we'll do signage, we'll do gating, we'll do fencing, we'll do landscaping, we'll create a kind of a natural barrier where high school kids will be like, it's just too hard to get to the park from this location. We'll need to go around and use the roadway or the sidewalks that have been provided. But again, future design, get creative on future design, because we already know that the high school kids already use that and they kind of think it's a pathway. So that's a Nampa Meridian Irrigation District easement and facility now. That's their access road, so they can access their cleanouts or the boxes that they have that we've provided them by piping that Tuttle lateral. And they just really don't want anybody back there. And I don't think the neighbors that live there really want to see people walking back and forth above their yards. So again, landscape design, gates, fences, and formalizing where we want people to go instead of just letting folks kind of go willy-nilly. Next question is from Carolyn Databay. I hope I said that right. Is there a possibility of using the parking lot at Capitol High School, especially in summer, with a connecting footpath? Parking lot at Capitol High School, especially in the summer. We kind of talked about like the direct access from Capitol High School property in that northwest corner being a bit of a problem. We know it's occurring, and we know that we want kids to be able to access the site because they're going to anyway. We just want to formalize access in a way that is safe and it doesn't become a nuisance or a problem for the folks that live kind of in that northwest corner that can see, the rise for where they put in that kind of access road for the irrigation district. It's created quite of a lift, so they can look out their backyard and they don't want to see folks passing by or any shenanigans that we often know that high school kids kind of tend to get into. So next question is from Mary Morris. What are the types of events that are being considered? Well, again, for future uses, we're just talking about the access to the site at this point. I couldn't really say what kind of uses would occur in the future, but uses, types of events that might be considered would be like maybe there's a fall harvest festival for growers that are maybe growing on the site, and they might want to have maybe a showcase, like have a big dinner or a harvest festival. Maybe we grow pumpkins on the site, and maybe we have like a pumpkin patch or something in the fall. Those types of events are probably something where maybe some overflow parking might be needed. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Again, none of that's been planned out, and no events have been planned at this point. We're just trying to formalize access, but that's kind of the things that I would think would need maybe some additional overflow parking. From Diane Wilmot, next question. Oh, she's sad because her husband taught horticulture at Capitol, and our original plan was for them to start the plants in the greenhouse and accessing the park easily. We want the kids to access the park easily.
Mm.
I just don't think we want them to access it in a manner that aggravates or is against what the Nampa Meridian Irrigation District requires of us because of that easement. And we also can't really use somebody else's private property or cross private property unless we have an easement from them. And there's a lineal parcel that kind of runs north, south, south, north on the west side that separates the Spaulding Ranch city property from Capitol High School and Milwaukee Park back there. So we're looking for options for access back there that do not create a nuisance for the neighbors, that do not violate any easements that we're required to keep for the irrigation district. And we're also wanting to keep the high school kids interested and have it be accessible and have it be easy. But we want to formalize that in a manner that everybody can get on board with. And so vehicular access at this point is really what we're focused on. And then plans for bike, pedestrian, circulations and pathways were really going to be kind of the next plan for amenities in the park. Hopefully that answers your question. I don't see any other questions in the Q&A. So again, when I do these things, I just get tired of hearing my own voice. I'm sure everyone else is at this point, but again, I don't see any questions, and I appreciate everybody's attendance here tonight, and I hope that this has been informative and helpful. It looks like we're, we've got another question here. Carolyn, Databay, what about sidewalks and crosswalks on the Cole Road for locals? So when Ada County Highway District widened North Cole Road on the frontage of our site, they put in a big, beautiful sidewalk. So we're going to, obviously, through the park, we're going to encourage and allow pedestrian and bike access at at wherever you want to be in the park. Bring, ride your park, not on the grass and not in the places where we're growing, agricultural items. But yes, we will always build sidewalks for pedestrians and lanes where bikes can share private roads with vehicular traffic. Another question is from Blake Bolton. What is the expected timeline? Good question, Blake. The reason for this meeting tonight is to let all of our neighbors and the public know what we propose to do. And we're going to propose this to Ada County Highway District within the next month or two. And I'll explain this, and if I get too wonky, it's okay because I'm a planner. What we would do as the city, as an applicant, would submit a development application to the Planning and Development Services Office at the city. Because just like any other private citizen or developer, in order for us to build something or to do something on our property that connects with public roadways, we have to ask the city. And because this is a historic site, what we would need to do is go to the Historic Preservation Commission and ask them for what's called a certificate of appropriateness to build this on a historic site. That certificate of appropriateness will then trigger Ada County Highway District. This is a development application, and they need to respond in kind by providing a staff report. That staff report will basically be Ada County Highway District's response to our proposal to build the access the way that we're showing here. So at that point, my guess is they'll schedule either a public hearing with the Ada County Highway District Commission, or they won't. But I'm guessing since we're asking them to modify their standard policy for cul-de-sacs on the north and south side, we'll probably have to go in front of their commission. And that's when they'll speak about things like parking and turning movements off of Cole Road, signage, gates, bollards, all those things that we've really tried to consider in our proposed design here tonight. We think we're pretty well prepared to be able to handle what ACHD might require of us in the future. But again, the purpose of the meeting tonight is to tell our neighbors, hey, this is what we've come up with. What do you guys think? So I've got a couple of things in the chat here. Mary Stackle says, if the road were closer to buildings, it would be further away from the intersection of Cole and Mountain View. So I'm thinking, if I understand your question correctly, it suggested that we've moved this access road further south to be
Yeah.
away from the buildings, or excuse me, closer to the existing buildings
Yes.
and keep it away from the section of Coal Mountain. So yes, again, we want to get it as far south as we can, away from that existing driveway on Cole Road, to keep the distance between driveways, a good amount. But again, we've piped that lateral, so it kind of constrains where we can put the road. And also, if we kind of bisect the site with that access road, it lessens the amount of effective agricultural growing space for future growers. So that's kind of how we have it here. Again, we're going to take this to Ada County Highway District to ask them if we can have them modify their policy to put it in this manner. They could very well tell us, go back to the drawing board. We don't like it. Move that road, do a different entrance. This is just what we're going to propose here. So I see another question from Ronnie Marler, saying ACHD Commissioner Pickering is currently exploring ideas for Glenwood Mountain View coal connections. That is perfect timing, actually. So, but again, on that timeline, the person that asked about the timeline, we're going to be going to ACHD and our Planning Development Services Department within the next month or two. So I expect that folks in the neighborhood might want to keep an eye out. We'll certainly keep everybody's email addresses that have signed up for this evening, or for this evening's meeting. And when future hearings or any potential public engagement opportunities crop up, we'll be happy to let everybody know, so they can at least pay attention, if not maybe get involved and provide some comments to it as well. Oh, Blake Bolton says, loves the plan, looking forward to it. I like to hear that. Thank you, Blake. I know that a lot of our neighbors have concerns about the future site. We're excited. We know our neighbors are excited. We want to give you guys a super awesome, functional, and unique park like nothing we've ever provided. We've been working really, really hard on the initial infrastructure, like water and things like roadways. We'd like to be able to put in our sewer and water lines for future outbuildings or washouts or sheds or greenhouses or whatever. Lots of future opportunities here. We want to get the essential infrastructure in first. So that's what we're trying to do here, and we want to do it right, and we want our neighbors to be on board with us. So I appreciate everybody that's attended here tonight. I appreciate all of your really thoughtful questions. And again, if you have questions after this meeting that come to you, they're kind of outside of the realm of formalized access, roadways, parking, that sort of thing, we're happy to entertain them. We just don't want to keep anybody, past that 6 to 7 p.m. Time frame. So again, if you have any more questions, feel free to send them to us. I've answered all the questions in the chat, Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead. We're at 6:45. We got 15 minutes left. And if there are no questions, I have just bid everyone a wonderful evening and enjoy it. Yeah, thank you. Yes, put a face that needs to shave. Thank you guys so much, and enjoy your evening. Have a good night.